Okay, so today coming from you from the workbench from Starcrawler Terrain. Remember our Kabuki gang here. We did a little bit more work on getting the door frames working for Zombicide Invader, for the layout style of Zombicide Invader. So it's pretty simple. This is another one of the prototype doors. This is a slightly older version with the blue door here. Just happen to test it in blue. I actually kind of like it in blue. This one has the like a gold colored plate here. Just use a gold marker to color that in to see it a little bit better. So pop that on the ends, pop on the corners. Okay, and then we need to pop on some walls. And what we started working on was some inserts for the walls. So these actually just kind of press fit in, and I'll show you that in a second. These ones are blue, so we'll be using these as the sort of oxygen room walls. This one here is a little bit different. It's got different inserts. So you can basically print out all these inserts separately, and you can print them out like very, very finely if you want, and just kind of press them in, glue them in with a little dab of glue. And we'll add two more. I think for Invader, where this is going to ship with sets of walls that are typically 3, not 2 and 1, because it's just a little bit quicker to set it up. And then we take our new wall here, and this wall actually has a spherical magnet on this side and that side, so it'll connect to another base plate. So I have another base plate over here. So now it has a magnetic connection to that. It's not super strong, but it does connect. Okay, so then the next thing we want to do is we want to make sure we add some corners. So we'll drop in some corners here on the outside. Okay, and then we can add a second room to this. And you can see here we have the door, and this is the prototype for the new door. There's a slot here for a little piece of colored plastic to go in. I can actually lift that up and move it. And it drops in through a slot in the top. I don't know if I can get this out or not. You can see it on the prototype door. There's a slot in here, and your piece of plastic drops in, and then this little black piece here, this little black angle piece, just slides in, and that kind of holds it in place. Okay, so when you're doing that, basically this whole door is sort of press fit. There's nothing glued on that door. Okay, and then that door just drops into here. So those go in there. The tolerances are pretty forgiving on those, and it has little slots in the floor for it to grab to. So now that's how you set up a wall with a door. That's a sort of a standard size room. Add another room onto the outside. And in these corner pieces, we're going to be making these with magnets that go on the outside so that they can actually connect to 4 walls, because there's nothing connecting these magnets right up here. Working on a prototype for that. Looks like it should work pretty good. We'll throw 2 corners in the end. And then if we had another door, we'd slot it in here, but since I don't have another door, I'll just take one of these pieces in here and slot it in, and that's it. Pick that up and move that around. It's 2 extra magnets here would really, really help. Extra magnets here on the bottom, and here on the top. On the outside would really help, because that would give this a little bit more and give this more rigidity for the whole piece. So that's kind of how it looks. And sometimes in Zombicide, the floors are a little bit longer. So if you just want to add another piece to this, pop the end off, slap in another piece. This is actually a 2-in-1. And these pieces here, we're going to redesign these floor tiles here so that they're omnidirectional. They're bidirectional, so they're not, because I don't like the way that this doesn't line up here. So we're going to make this so that it doesn't have a particular direction. And then we just slap this piece on the end here. And I would take out these 2 single pieces and replace them with 2 double pieces. This piece flipped. And put a double piece in there. You see how fast that goes together. Just chunk, 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 and it's all in place. Right? And I can, if I grab that by the end there, I can pick that up. And it's not, there's only one magnet, there's only one magnet holding, but that's something that we want to correct in future versions of the prototype for this. And then your doors go there. Now, the big question is, for me, is always, if I've got my survivor in the square and the doors open and all these enemies come rushing in, how fast does this space fill up? when you're playing Zombicide, like a lot of it is about moving the models from piece to piece. So obviously, being able to fit all the models in here. Sometimes you can get, this will hold sort of roughly 9. I think this would hold 9 models pretty easily. And you can see, like, with the walls being the height that they are and a little bit of extra space on the sides, there's a little bit of extra room for arms and sticky out bits. In this case, the arm here actually just goes right over the top. If the walls were a little bit taller, I think this is the optimal size if you want to play nicely with the setup. But we may provide this with a taller set of walls if you want something that's a little bit more immersive, because on the other side of that is the characters can look like they can see over the walls. So it might look better if it was more at eyeline, but it probably plays better like this. Unless you want to build larger rooms like these 4x3s. These rooms here, obviously, you can stick a lot of enemy models in there. Well, there's 5 and 4. There's 9 models, all stuck in there. There's room for more. Right, so this will work if you use the slightly larger rooms, but it's going to increase the overall footprint of your piece. Another thing I wanted to show was just move this here. There we go, and I'll turn that off. Another thing I wanted to show was the process of sort of planning this all out. So I like to work in Tinkercad. I use ZBrush, I use Blender, I use Maya, 3ds Max. For the last 20 years I've been using top-end 3D software. And for what we're doing here, Tinkercad is really, I think it's the most optimal tool. It's a Boolean tool, so it means it takes 2 objects and combines them together and subtracts or adds them together, merges them together, and it's one of the most effective Boolean tools that I've ever seen for developing pieces. So this is actually a fairly heavy scene, and what I should do is I should take these parts, export them, and then remerge them, because actually all of the geometry history of each piece is on here. But this just gives you an idea of how I'm kind of testing out what a room would look like. And on this side here, I use 2 walls that stick together with a door that goes between them. Okay, and this is what I was sort of originally thinking that we might want to do, but it means that you end up with having to add extra walls, and it increases the overall footprint. So from here, roughly from here to here, is 300. Well, it's exactly 300 centimeters. That's the 30 centimeters. So that's fairly big. That's a standard Zombicide tile is 25 centimeters. So you add 3 of those together, you've gained 15 centimeters. You start to eat up your floor space. So that's with just standard 3x3 rooms. So the other option is to do the rooms like this where they share a wall, and then this piece here becomes the door frame. And instead of having a single wall and an empty door that goes in here, we want to just make this all one piece. So it's a 3x3, and this is more in line with what we did in the original Zombicide Starcrawler terrain. And so what I think we may end up doing, we could build it this way, and I was looking at the option here of building a sort of a spiral junction that would allow you to sort of drop that in the middle just for quick setup. But instead what I ended up doing here is just building the piece here, just looking at trying to put a piece here in the middle that kind of links all those together. So these would all be individual parts. And so that's kind of back to where we're talking about when we're talking about these little corner pieces with the red tops up here. So the process of kind of testing the layouts and kind of seeing how they work, you need to do these sort of like pre-assembly phases. And like I said, these parts are the whole history of these parts are in here. So if I ungroup this and then ungroup it again, you can see all the booleans, all the pieces that have been cut out of all the other pieces. And then we keep going further. You can see the cutouts. You can see the magnet holes here in the bottom. These are the little magnet booleans that we use here. They're actually all completely separated now because I've ungrouped them. And so that's why this particular scene, this is kind of probably a little bit heavier than I would like. So, but if I remerge these back in, I could I can line them up, and I like this because these are real world measurements, and it's a little bit easier to. I find this is like much faster. If I want to just put this onto the printer, I just hit export. It's going to drop the file here on the bottom. If I just hit export like so, STL, it's going to drop the model. It's going to give me a little bar at the bottom here because it's actually quite a heavy model to process, and you need a really good internet connection for this. You just need your browser to be more or less fast enough, but you need a good internet connection to do this. This is taking a lot longer because this is a very heavy piece, and it drops the piece here in my bottom, and I just drag and drop it into Cura. Let's see if I have Cura open here. Yeah. So yeah, I can just grab this, drag it, drop it into, where did you go here, Cura? To Cura, and it's there. And quite often I'm just quickly exporting them, and let's say I want to see very quickly at the top here. I want to see how my line thickness looks like and what's actually going to print. So like these vents here, this is what the printer's actually going to print at a 0.2 layer height and a 0.4 nozzle, which is kind of standard. I wouldn't want to go to 0.1, and I wouldn't want to go smaller than a 0.4 nozzle. So what I do is we design all of this so that everything is going to give us a 0.4, a good fit with a 0.4 nozzle. And so a lot of times it's kind of going back and forth between Tinkercad and Cura to just kind of see what the slicer is going to do and see it in the preview mode. So yeah, that's generally the way that I kind of look at all of the files together, and just get a kind of a feeling for what I should do. And then because we're prototyping, you build something, you try it out, you learn it, you learn what it's doing, and then you just want to you want to test it out and see it. And if you don't like it, you change it, and if you like it, or sometimes along the way you get a better idea, and that's what we should do, is just keep kind of refining and refining, and don't just give up when something works, but actually just think about it and go, I can make that a little bit better, and I can make that a little bit better, more fun to play. So building on top of our past experiences, the first set taught us an awful lot about this. I really like the magnet setup. I feel that, like we talked about here, we need some more bi-directional magnets on these corner pieces, and I like this idea of press fit parts, where you can print out the pieces and press fit them. I'm doing a little bit of coloring in with Sharpies. So we're using a gold Sharpie to kind of give some extra details, and a black paint marker, stealing some ideas from the Gundam guys, because they got some really cool ideas too. I also have some really nice tiny little decals that eventually I want to start putting on some of these pieces. But what we're aiming for here is, like I said, we're aiming for something that you can be happy with this. You can print it in multiple colors. We want to try to give clear instructions on how to print it in multiple colors. And, there's no paint on this piece, but it actually looks really good. This camera doesn't really do it justice. The colors are a little bit washed out here. But, these reds are really nice. They pop. I love this blue that I got. It's a good, really nice sort of sky blue. And, red, the red for the security tiles. We have stacks of tiles. By the way, this is kind of cool. The tiles, because of the magnets, they will stack. So you end up with these massive stacks of tiles. But, being able to do things like print, we've got 3 colors going here, and that's just touched up with a little bit of marker. And that adds a lot of detail to it. And, these super thin little veneer panels here, they add a lot of detail, and I'm really happy with that. And I think, that wasn't something I expected to do when we started doing this setup. I wasn't expecting to sort of print a lot of multicolor stuff, but I'm glad that we went down this route, because I think it's going to end up with nicer looking pieces. It's very accessible for people who don't paint their models. You just got to get a couple different colors of filament and plan out what you want to do. So the next steps will be to continue to work on these doors. I'm going to build this all, print this all in one piece. The frame, I should say, so it's a little bit more square. The door here, I want to maybe add some detail. I'd like to have a little panel here that maybe is a different color, like the security panel. Something that you just add, like a little bit of detail you can add into there. And then I think we're kind of good to go and start mass producing some of these doors. And I think we're well on our way with the Zombicide Invader kit. So thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you all soon.